The ceremony, Hanbleciya, means crying for a vision. Hamble means to dream. And the second part is really Chea. Chea means crying. So technically it's crying for a dream or crying for a vision. And I want to talk about this just a little bit because a lot of people are doing this incorrectly. I want to show you examples of what I mean. Hanbleciya is it is a ceremony where you're not supposed to do this alone. And I'll explain to you why. What you're doing is you're making a journey while you're awake to a part inside of you where there is a piece of Ian. It's a creation piece. Now, Ian is not God. We do not have a one God concept in ancient Lakota belief. There is no one God concept. There is no heaven. There is no hell. It's something different. But today, most Indians, they interpret everything from a Christian perspective. So they will say, Tangashila, to mean God, or Wakantanka to mean God. Some people will say Tangashila Wakantanka to mean God, and Ate Wakantanka to mean Jesus. Now this is a Catholic interpretation of that. And I don't like it myself because Wakantanka is not a one God concept. It is an organization of many beings. And even then, there's more than one. There's several Wakantanka organizations. And neither one is more important than the other. They just work in different ways. You have to be careful about saying, this is good and bad, because it's not. It's not about that at all. They're responsible for a lot of things in this world, the creation of it, even ourselves. And this is an organization. It's not God. So when you heard me talking about that Christian brainwashing experience, part of that included changing words to Christian definitions. So today, you ask an old person on reservation, what does Wakantanka mean? 99% of the time, they're going to say it's God, because see, that's your evidence. They are Christian influenced, even if they are 80, 90 years old. It's just very rare where you'll hear somebody say, no, it's something different. One of the members of one of these Wakantanka organizations is called Ian. And in the beginning, he assembles himself and then pushes everything out, and the universe is created as such. But some of the pieces of him form a new piece. And that new piece is you. Okay? That's when your soul was created, was when that Ian piece formed into a second piece. So these two pieces are connected, but they're not the same. Okay? Because your piece is new. The Ian piece is complete, but yours is not. So the purpose is to live and to learn from difficulties so you can love yourself and then others. That's how we roll. That when you do this, your piece is starting to complete itself. So this may take more than one lifetime to do. And that's okay. It's not a race. It is not a race to see who gets done faster. It's not a race. It doesn't make people better. Concerning linear and non-linear thinking. Just because somebody gets to a destination fast, it doesn't mean they're better. It doesn't mean that at all. And that's only one aspect of their lives. There's other aspects that they're probably really slow on. So don't compare yourself to how others are doing things. Just do your best with your life. That's the most important thing. This way you can better serve others and also yourself. So this eon piece is what's really deep inside of you. And what you're going to do in the Hanbleciya is you're going to make a direct contact while you're awake. And that's really hard to do. That's why you need a ceremony. And when you use plants to try to alter your mind, all you're doing is hallucinating. So we don't use drugs. We don't use magical herbs and peyote buttons and things like that in our ceremonies because that's not necessary. We have the ability to do this naturally. We have the ability to do this naturally. Some people say, yeah, but marijuana, hey, that's part of Mother Earth. Did you ever talk to people who are potheads? You can't even keep their attention. They're like, huh? Oh, yeah. Oh, look at the colors. Huh? Every pothead has a pothead laugh. And it is just this Mother Earth? I don't think so. When it stops you from using your talents, this is not the healthy way to use that plant. See what I mean? Plants, people abuse them too. And that's when they use it for hallucinating. But they think it's opening up their consciousness. But it's not. It's an hallucination. It's a hallucination. It's a reflection of certain elements in your subconscious. But that doesn't mean it is a sacred thing. It's a hallucination. So, in Lakota ceremonies, we do not use hallucinogens. We do not ingest or smoke plants in our ceremonies because this is not necessary. But yet today, there are people who do. Yeah, there are some places you go in sweat lodges, they're passing the joint around, they're tripping on acid, they're passing peyote buttons around or whatever. And this is not the way. That is absolutely not the way. That's an abuse of that plant. And people don't realize that. People talk about animal abuse and things like this, but there's also plant abuse. It's not just the burning of the rainforest. It's not just that. It's using plants for things that which actually cause harm to the body. And this is not conducive with natural law because it's violating the natural purpose of that plant. It's raping that plant and forcing it to do something it was never intended to do. Just a side note there, yeah, that we don't need plants to reach our ultra super ulterior whatever omnipotent super conscious or whatever. No, we don't need that because it's not necessary. So in the Hanbleciya, you're going to try to make a direct contact with this eon piece. And this is dangerous. So you don't do it alone. You have to have somebody who has the ability to see what you're experiencing. And these are holy people. What you're doing is you're standing on a hill 4 days and 4 nights, no food, no water. And it's a lot of prayer and meditation. And we didn't always have the pipe. Yeah, the pipe is not even 600 years old. And the ceremony is older than that. So before the pipe came, people didn't need it because it wasn't here. So they did the ceremony without the pipe. Sometimes you may get the vision. Sometimes you may not. If you don't, it doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It just means it's not time. So you have to realize that the time does not adhere to the way spiritual reality exists. Time is different in spirituality than it is in consciousness. It's not the same thing. That's some of the early things that you learn when you're trying to practice our spirituality, that you cannot expect things to happen according to what you do, because time is different for other realms. So you have to understand that when you do something like this, it does not guarantee that you're going to get an answer or you're going to get a vision, because that realm may just not it's not time. So really spiritual people know this. So when they Hanbleciya and they don't get a vision, it's no big deal. They say, okay, I'll do it next year. So you do it next year. You don't say next week or tomorrow. You say next year. You have to give it a year. And your answer may come in a different way that you don't need to do Hanbleciya. The people today, like I said, are very Christian influenced, and they use this ceremony like it's something that we have to do. Yeah, this. We're not Indian unless we do this. Yeah, no. Not all people have to do this, because sometimes people get their experience in a different way. It doesn't always come with Hanbleciya. See, you have to realize in Lakota, it's not always going to be a certain way. Because when you think that you must get a vision by doing the ceremony, you're along that dogmatic way, and that's duality. So you have to be careful about that. So you have to find a holy person, as I said, who's really experienced at this. There's preparations that you have to do. I'm not going to tell you what they are, because this is a sacred thing, and I'm not a new age shaman bullshit artist who's out selling ceremonies and exploiting culture and combining Cherokee and Navajo and Lakota things in one thing and saying this is Pan-American. That's not possible, because those are totally different cultures. Totally different. You cannot mix Indian beliefs from different tribes into one Pan-American Indian belief. It's not possible. When you do, you don't understand it, and you're playing with fire, and that's unhealthy communication, which means it's going to return to you 4 times as strong. I say that to people who say they're Cherokee, but then they use Lakota concepts, and then they do things in Arizona. So you have Indian fake medicine. They're real Lakota people. They have a little bit of knowledge, and they go to places where people are yearning for this, and they sell it. This is disrespecting the ceremony. And when people do things like this, what it also says is that they don't really believe it. That's like trying to put a cap on your foot. It doesn't belong there. It belongs on your head. Or it's like trying to put a jock strap over your face. It doesn't belong there. Unless you're a pervert. But that's unhealthy too, yeah? So, what a cool analogy. I have to remember that one. Oh my. Anyway, I know there's guys who say they're Cherokee and they read some books and then they make up their own concepts, and then they try to do these ceremonies, sell it to people for the spiritual warrior experience, whatever that's called. And people end up dying because they don't really know what they're doing. So I just have to add that in there. So you get your helper, who's supposed to be a holy person, and you prepare a year before you're going to do it. So you just don't go to Walmart and buy everything and say, okay, we're going to go up Bear Butte next weekend and pull this off. You don't do it like that. You have to spend a whole year in advance to do this. Because during that year, you're supposed to be prepping yourself spiritually and emotionally and mentally and physically. If you are diabetic, you're not supposed to be doing any Lakota ceremonies. It doesn't mean you're less. Doing a ceremony does not make you better. That's number one thing I have to say here. I should say that more often. When you do a ceremony, it does not make you better than anybody. Because not everybody's supposed to do these things. See, it's linear thinking. It's linear dualistic thinking that a lot of Indians today think that the more ceremonies they do, the more whatever they are. And that's nothing. That doesn't mean anything. So, you prepare a year in advance, and then you and your holy person, you go out and you choose the hill you're going to use. And no hill is better than the other. It just has to be someplace private, where there's no cars driving by and cows grazing and things like that. It has to be way out in the middle of nowhere. So you just don't do it in your backyard. Yeah, it has to be way, way out in nature. You have to be exposed to the elements, because you're going into nature. You're going into your mind. So then you there's things that you do to for the area that you're going to stand, and you go into a sweat lodge ceremony with the holy person to get yourself in the frame of mind, and then it takes you up there and puts you inside this area. There's preparations that you have to make. I'm not going to say what they are, but you have to make those preparations beforehand. Then you go in there, and that's where you stay until the holy person comes after you. In the meantime, he or she is going to be in the sweat lodge. There's not going to be a fire in there unless he gets cold. He's not doing a sweat lodge ceremony. He's just sitting in there. And so whatever you see, he's going to tap into you. So whatever you see, he's going to see it. That's why he has to be in a sweat lodge to do this. So as you begin, your mind has 4 levels, from your awake to the eon piece. So the middle 2 areas are the areas where when you sleep, you're in those 2 areas. One of the middle areas has all the information from the time that your soul entered the body that you have now. It has that information up until the present moment. That other piece, that has all the information from when your soul was created up until your soul entered this body that you were born in. So when you dream, sometimes you're going in those areas and you're receiving information from there in dreams. Sometimes it's surprising. During the ceremony, in those 2 middle areas, there are passageways that lead to other spiritual realms. And some of those realms are unhealthy. Just because something exists in the spirit does not mean it's good. There's healthy energy and there's unhealthy energy. Unhealthy energy can really be tricky, because something can come through these passageways. Passageways begin in your mind. So these things can come through there, and they read everything in your mind. So they can look at your memories and imitate people that you know. Like maybe you had a best friend who died 20 years ago or so. Suddenly you hear this voice, and it's your best friend. It says, "Hey, remember we used to go pick choke cherries over at Ash Creek? Remember that? And after that we used to go horseback riding, and then we did some fishing down at Bedner's Dam, and then remember we used to bring it back to your mom, and we would skin it and she would cook it for us. Remember that?" So you're like, oh yeah, you're hearing your best friend's voice, and you start crying, man, I miss you, and I know that kind of thing, and now they're gonna play with you. Now you're losing it. See that they've tricked you, because like I said, they can get all this information from your mind and appear like that. This is why you need a holy person, because these things are going to tug at your heart. And when you get really emotionally involved, you start to lose your rationalization. You start to lose that. And pretty soon, if it goes deep enough, you can become psychotic. This is no joke. So what a holy person does, he sees this. Like I said, he sees whatever you see. He's tapping into you. So when he sees one of these things coming from the sweat lodge, he deals with it and drives it away. There's a sacred language that they use, and this is what they drive it away with. There's two versions of Lakota. There's Lakota, and there's the Wakhan version. The holy people know the Wakhan version. When you hear it, it's going to freak you out. So that's why I'm not going to say it. I don't want to freak anybody out. Seriously. But anyway, the holy person drives it out from the sweat lodge that he's sitting inside. So then you can continue with your praying and meditation, and whether you're going to get that vision or not. So he's guiding you through it. He's like clearing the path, and he's like making sure if something comes through that it gets pushed back, because you have to be alone. Even if it's a healthy energy, the holy person is going to hold it back, because this is something you have to do alone. You cannot have any assistance. And you're going to see things that are going to freak the hell out of you when you're on that hill for those 4 days and 4 nights. You're going to see things that are going to try to scare you off that hill. They're going to try to get you to leave that area. But see, there's something that's put around there, and they can't come in there, but they're going to scare you to try to get you to leave it. And if you do, you could go crazy. You see, this is a very dangerous ceremony, and you're not supposed to do this by yourself, because you could get an emotional disorder, or you could get a mental disorder. Today, there are people who say, okay, yeah, I'm getting my paycheck on Friday, so Friday I'm driving down to, right after work, I'm going to the bank and cash my check. I already got my suitcase packed. I'm going to Bear Butte. So Friday night, I'm going to go up on Bear Butte, and I'm going to Hanbleciya till Sunday night. Sunday night, I'll come back, and they think he's trying to do it 2 days. I heard somebody, in my life, say, yeah, I'm going to go down to Bear Butte, and I'm going to do a 24-hour Hanbleciya. That's not possible. That's not possible. There's a reason why it's supposed to be 4 days and 4 nights. This has to do with the man's cycle. The man's cycle is associated with the number 4. Okay? The woman's is associated with number 7. These are the reason why these two numbers are sacred in our culture. So you can't be just saying, okay, I'm going to go up on a hill, for 2 days or 24 hours. See, they're doing this on their own. I mean, yes, you can go up there for 24 hours if you want to, but that is not a Hanbleciya ceremony. That's just you going up on a hill for 24 hours. But that's not Hanbleciya. Hanbleciya is 4 days and 4 nights, no food, no water, no sleep, and you have to have a holy person guiding you. This is something you do not do alone. And you don't have to go to Bear Butte. Bear Butte is, for those of you in Europe, Bear Butte is a really big mountain that is beside the Black Hills, but it's not connected. Yeah, it's a distance away, so that's why it looks strange. Yeah, you have prairie, and all of a sudden, down this big old mountain is sticking out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it's cooler than hell when you see it from a distance. And a lot of people think that that's the place to do Hanbleciya, the ceremony, but it doesn't have to be Bear Butte. It can be any hill. Not one part of Grandmother Earth is better than the other. That would be like saying her toe is better than her nose. See what I mean? That's not true. So every part of Grandmother Earth is sacred, not just certain places. So it can be any hill, as long as you're in the element, in nature. That's the most important thing. And believe me, Bear Butte is not in the element. There's 2 major highways going through there. Lots of tourists are going through there. It's not the place to do that, in my mind. In ancient times, they didn't do that there. Bear Butte was a place for government. And that happened after the Sundance at Devil's Tower. So they didn't do Hanbleciya there in ancient times. That's something people are doing, in the 70s, 1960s and 70s and so forth. So that was not the ancient site for that. It can be any hill. Doesn't have to be at Bear Butte. Okay? Okay. So if the person receives a vision, there's a protocol. There's a dream protocol. There is a dream protocol that has to happen. It happens in the beginning, and it happens at the end. I'm not going to say what it is, but it is the same for everybody. The middle part, the vision, is what's different for everybody, but the going into and the coming out is the same for everybody that does this. So when people say, "Yeah, I had a Hanbleciya, I saw a koala bear, so that's my totem." No, it's not. You just had a dream, but that was not a vision. Because a vision there's more to it than just seeing an animal. There's other things that are involved that have to be there, that are going to define what it means, and whether there's medicine coming from it, or a name, or whatever. You have to really pay attention to what's going on. And when you experience this, the holy person that's in the sweat lodge, he's watching it too. So what's happening is it's coming from that place in your mind. So it's like a projector, and it's projecting in front of you. And then you see this, and then the holy person is seeing the same thing. You could get it the first night. If you get it the first night, wonderful. But you still have to be up there 4 days and 4 nights. Because that's the ceremony. So some people, they will get it on the first night. And some people will get it on the 3rd night, or the 4th, or the 2nd. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you remain up there 4 days and 4 nights. Because that is the ceremony. And then the holy person is going to see what you see. So, when it's over, he comes up or she comes up to get you. And then you go back into that sweat lodge. And then you tell everything that you saw. Everything. Even the beginning and the ending parts. You have to say everything. You don't leave anything out. You don't add anything, because that holy person's going to know if you do that. And if you do that, it's ruined. Now it means nothing. All the energy dissipates and goes someplace else. You lost it. So you have to say everything that happened. That's really a strict rule. Because when you're doing this, what you're doing is you're unpacking medicine that came to you through that vision. You're unpacking it. It's like a zip file or a rare file. And you're retelling it is opening it up. It's unzipping it or whatever. It is opening it up, and now it's ready to be used. That's why. You can't leave anything out. You can't add anything. And the holy person will know, because he saw it. He saw what you saw. And he's not going to remind you. It's your responsibility to say it. There are things that you may not understand, and that's okay. He's going to help you, or she's going to help you understand what they are. And then a lot of times it's for you, but it's also for you to help others. It's not just for you to say, yes, I got a power, now I'm Superman. It's not like that. You never receive anything just for yourself. You receive things that are for you so that you can help others, so that the people may live. It always comes down to that. Reality begins within, so it comes to you within so that you can use it in your talent, whatever that is, to help the people so that they can live. This is how it works. That's how that ceremony plays its role in this. So, this is very strict rule. And when it's done, it's done. That's it. And there's no rule that says you have to do this every year. Some people do it when they really have a hard decision to make, or they're just trying to solve something inside of themselves. Sometimes they do the ceremony for that, to receive inspiration or the actual answer. There's all kinds of reasons people do this. And it doesn't have to be done every year. Some people only do it once a year. Some people do it only once in their lifetime. Some people never do it because they receive the help in a different way. It's not always going to be in a vision. Sometimes it's going to be in some other way. What's important is that you receive it, that you do what you can to receive it. So it doesn't mean you have to do the ceremony, because you could receive the answer in a different way. So that's some thoughts on that. And this ceremony is for men only. Now it's time to piss off all the feminists. This ceremony is for men only. The only time women can do this ceremony is after they pass through menopause. Then women can participate in the ceremony. But up until then, it's women not allowed. And the reason why is because women don't have to do this. The reason why the number 7 is associated with women is because they have 3 more developments than we do. And one of those developments is equivalent to this ceremony. This is why they're not supposed to do Hanbleciya. They do something like this naturally inside of themselves, but they have to be emotionally healthy first. Just because you're a woman does not mean you are good. I know women who abandon their kids and would rather whore around than be a mother. I know women like that. I know a lot of women like that. I know women who've killed their own children. Lakota women, full-blooded Lakota women who've done this. Being a full-blood doesn't mean shit. It's how you live your life. Skin color doesn't matter concerning that. So, again, this ceremony is not for women when they're in their menstruating years, because there is a process that is equivalent to that, that's inside their bodies. So when a woman who's in her menstruating years tries to do this ceremony, it's going to backfire because it's too much energy. And too much energy always leads to disaster. Always. That's natural law. So this has nothing about saying women are not good enough. It's actually the other way around. We're missing this thing in our bodies. So that's why we have to do this ceremony. Do you understand? When you look at this, you have to look at it through the ancient perspective and not the feminist perspective. Because if a woman says, well, if a man can do it, then a woman can do it too, that is a bullshit argument. The only time that argument is true is if it's true for everything. And it's not. Because men cannot get pregnant. This is not sexist. This is a biological fact. This ceremony is part of the male cycle, which, as I said earlier, has to do with the number 4. So this is not for women who are still in their menstruating years. So the only time a woman can do the ceremony is after she passes through menopause. And then, if she wants to do this, she can do it. If she wants to. She doesn't have to. But she can. And that's why boys are introduced to this. This is their rite of passage. It's to introduce them into the man cycle now, because now they're becoming men. And this is part of it. This is generally how it is. Now, sometimes you have boys that don't have to do this ceremony because they have intuition. Sometimes it's like that. There's always going to be exceptions to the rule. But generally, this is the rule. Okay? This is star knowledge. This is a very ancient system of rules and beliefs. And because of this Christian brainwashing experience and boarding school that I talked about earlier, that's why today most people lost this information. But it's still there. I'm telling it to you. And there's others who are like me too. It's just that we're just a little bit, yeah. just a little bit of us. So we have to do what we can, and this is one of the reasons why I have this show. So I'm not asking you to agree, but I am saying this is based on Lakota Star knowledge. This is ancestral information. You have to take all this stuff into account. They all fit together. Non-linear thinking. Looking at life, looking at every situation, and looking for 3 perspectives, and learning from difficulties, and all these things, they all fit together. This is the human way. This is the road of life, which is signified by the color red. Red does not mean Indians. Red stands for life. To read more about Lakota Star Knowledge spirituality, you can read my book called Wichocha Otechike. This book contains the information to what I talk about on my Lakota spirituality videos. You can see the book cover on the screen now. In the description below, there is a link to see my books. As you will notice, it's an eBay link. There's 2 of them, and either one will work. And there you can get the information to get this book. How? Lila Pila Maelo. Thank you very much.